Welcome to the Daily History Podcast. Today's topic takes us into a transformative era of the 20th century as we explore women in the shadow of World War II. Join us as we navigate through the significant yet often overlooked contributions and experiences of women during this pivotal time in history. As the world edged closer to the brink of the Second World War, the position of women in society was circumscribed by a narrow set of expectations. In the 1930s, the canvas of a woman's life was largely painted within the confines of her home, and her role was predominantly centered around domestic responsibilities. The image of the ideal woman was anchored in her duties as a homemaker, caring for children and managing the household. Although the 19th Amendment had secured American women the right to vote in 1920, this landmark victory did not immediately translate into broader societal changes. Most careers remained inaccessible to the fairer sex, with only a few socially acceptable occupations, such as teaching or nursing, being open to them. Even so, these jobs were often seen merely as an interlude before marriage, after which it was expected that a woman would leave the workforce entirely. Across the Atlantic in Europe, British women had also been granted suffrage, but across all classes, there continued to be deep-seated expectations regarding a woman's place and her role in public life. Employment opportunities for women were scarce and hampered further by the Great Depression, the financial calamity that had gripped the global economy since 1929. Societal norms dictated that any available jobs should be reserved for men, the breadwinners of families. Women who sought employment outside of the home often faced barriers and biases, and those who were employed typically earned far less than their male counterparts for the same work. This disparity underscored the societal view of women's supplementary role in the economic sphere. In preparing for the monumental shifts that war would bring, it is crucial to understand these baseline states of existence for women. The framework of domesticity, restricted employment opportunities, and the nascent exercise of political rights defined the borders of a world that women had been navigating. Yet, it was this very landscape that would soon undergo dramatic changes, setting the stage for women to step beyond the shadows and into the light of new roles and responsibilities, born out of necessity as the storm clouds of war gathered on the horizon. As the clouds of conflict gathered in the late 1930s, the world teetered on the brink of a global upheaval. By September 1, 1939, when German forces invaded Poland, World War II had ignited. The shockwaves of the war's outbreak rippled through nations, upending ordinary life and marking a radical shift in the social paradigm. Daily routines were disrupted as men were called to arms, leaving vacancies that disrupted the fabric of communities. This sudden withdrawal from the workforce ushered in an unanticipated transformation. Women, who had been largely confined to household duties or relegated to certain professions deemed suitable for their gender, found themselves stepping into roles that were once strictly filled by men. This was not just a simple change of occupation, it was a profound evolution in identity and social expectation. As factories increased production to meet the demands of a world at war, women became the backbone of industrial labor. They operated machinery, constructed vehicles, and took on roles in technical fields, embodying strength and adaptability in a time of dire need. The shift was not only a practical response to the male labor shortage, but also a testament to the determination and capability of women. Their invaluable contribution began reshaping the perception of gender roles, setting the tone for future discussions on equality and women's rights in the workplace. As the tides of war swept across nations, back at home, an often overlooked revolution was underway. As men departed for the battlefield, the absence of their labor left a gaping void in the industrial workforce, one that women stepped in to fill. Suddenly, factories that once echoed with men's voices were now resounding with the efforts of women determined to support the war effort from their own shores. These unsung heroines, many of whom had never earned their own paychecks before, now donned overalls and wielded tools with proficiency. They became welders, mechanics, and munitions workers, proving adept at tasks they were once thought incapable of performing. Night and day, their hands participated in the war effort, molding, crafting, and repairing the very sinews of war. Beyond industrial roles, countless women served courageously as nurses and support staff. With tender hands and steely resolve, they provided care and comfort to the wounded. Their contribution, however, transcended beyond the physical. It reshaped society's perception of what women could accomplish professionally. Visibility in these roles sparked a significant shift in the collective mindset regarding gender roles in the workplace. In a cultural wave spurred by necessity, a new symbol of female empowerment emerged: Rosie the Riveter. Rosie wasn't just a fictional character, but a personification of every woman contributing to the cause. With her famed flexed bicep and defiant slogan, "We can do it," Rosie became a beacon of strength, encouraging women to embrace their newfound capabilities and see beyond traditional societal limitations. Indeed, the landscape of the American workforce was forever changed during those war years. As women riveted, welded, and healed, they began to pave a rugged path toward gender equality, a path laden with both triumphs and challenges. This critical era in our history underlined the potential and power of women in society, a narrative celebrated and remembered even after the last gun fell silent. In the theaters of World War II, amidst the clamor and the chaos, a quieter revolution was unfolding. Women across the world were stepping into roles they had never been allowed or even expected to fill. One such role was that of a pilot. The Air Transport Auxiliary, an organization quite ahead of its time, opened its cockpits to a group of determined female aviators. These women took to the skies with the same level of skill and determination as their male counterparts, delivering aircraft to different bases, transporting goods, and participating in non-combat missions that were critical to the war effort. Women like Mary Ellis, a pioneering aviatrix, and Pauline Gower, who managed the women's section of the ATA, defied every normative expectation placed on their gender. Not bound by the prejudices on the ground, in the sky, they were free, proving that women were not only capable of handling the tasks that were once exclusive to men, but also excelling at them. Often, the aircraft they transported were fresh off the manufacturing line, untested in the throes of battle. These rather perilous flights were made without the aid of radio, and often in unfavorable weather conditions that would test the fortitude of any pilot. Meanwhile, across occupied Europe, women of immense bravery operated within the shadows. Women like Nancy Wake, a figure so tenacious and lethal, earned the moniker the White Mouse from the Gestapo, who failed to capture her despite her position atop their most wanted list. Nancy orchestrated escape routes for Allied soldiers, acted as a courier for resistance groups, and later directly engaged in guerrilla warfare. She was among a network of women resistance fighters who risked torture, imprisonment, and even death to chip away at the might of the Axis powers. Their operations remained clandestine, their successes often dissolving into the obscurity of history's pages, their contributions immeasurable. These stories not only highlight the physical risks these women took, but also underscore their mental fortitude in the face of deeply entrenched gender roles. The grit and vigor shown by female pilots and undercover agents during World War II dismantled stereotypes, paving the way for future generations of women in military and civilian aviation, as well as in the broader sphere of societal contributions. While the end of the war did not immediately dismantle the barriers faced by women, the legacy of these audacious pioneers created ripples that would expand into waves of change, reaching shores far beyond their own. As the tumult of World War II shattered the peace, women across nations found themselves stepping into roles that defied the traditional boundaries set by pre-war society. Faced with a dearth of manpower, industries and the military became reliant on women to fill the gap, compelling them to take on work in fields ranging from manufacturing to intelligence, where they had previously been unwelcome. Despite their critical input, These pioneering women faced a barrage of discrimination that shadowed their every achievement. In factory halls and amongst military ranks, they were often viewed as temporary substitutions rather than rightful occupants of their new roles. They were typically paid less than their male counterparts and were expected to relinquish their jobs when men returned from the front lines. It wasn't just the blatant wage disparities or job security anxieties that women had to grapple with. On a deeper level, they also encountered psychological and societal walls that stood firm in the face of change. The entrenched belief that a woman's place was in the home lingered, and as they donned uniforms or overalls, many women faced skepticism or outright criticism, not just from male peers, but from wider society, including other women. Yet, throughout these trying times, there were glimmers of resilience, and the fight for equality began to take a new shape. Courageous voices started to pierce through the din of discrimination, advocating for the rights and recognition that women had earned through their tenacity and hard work. Figures such as Eleanor Roosevelt in the United States emerged, vocally supporting women's roles in workforce and military, urging the nation to not brush aside the accomplishments and potential of half the population. The extraordinary circumstances of the war brought about an environment where women could demonstrate their capabilities beyond any doubt. Their fulfillment of tasks once deemed suitable only for men chipped away at the rigid gender norms, planting seeds of transformation in the societal mindset that would continue to grow long after the war ended. As the fight for gender equality marched on, the legacy of these women's wartime experiences would carve a deep furrow in the long road toward women's rights. Their struggles and triumphs during World War II not only contributed to the war effort, but also to the shaping of a future where the idea of a woman working alongside a man would not be an exception, but a norm, reflecting a more equitable society. As the smoke of World War II cleared, the societal landscape for women began to shift. With immense contributions to the war effort still echoing in the collective memory, women emerged from the conflict with newfound confidence and a sense of agency that could not be easily dismissed. The war had catalyzed a fundamental change, thrusting women into roles and jobs that had once been the exclusive domain of men, creating a powerful catalyst for the women's rights movement. In 1945, as men returned home and the factories switched gears from war to peacetime production, many women who had entered the workforce found themselves in a precarious position. They faced the expectation to relinquish their jobs to the returning soldiers. However, having tasted independence and financial autonomy, many women were reluctant to return to pre-war domestic roles. This tension laid the groundwork for a burgeoning movement that sought equal rights and opportunities for women in all aspects of American life. The spirit of the era had also ushered in legislative changes, such as the Women's Armed Services Integration Act of 1948, which granted women permanent status in the military, albeit with restrictions and capped ranks. This marked an important precedent, acknowledging women's contributions during the war, and slowly chipped away at the barriers faced by women seeking to serve their country. On the societal front, the roles women assumed during the war translated to an increased presence in public life in the following decades. The concept that women could handle demanding jobs and leadership roles had taken root. Over time, this rippled outward, affecting everything from education to politics, leading to significant participation of women in sectors previously inaccessible to them, and further fueling the women's rights movement that would gain even greater momentum in the 1960s. Education became a powerful tool for post-war women as well. The GI Bill, while primarily associated with the education of returning servicemen, inadvertently benefited women as universities expanded and educational opportunities became more widely available. More women attended college than ever before, pursuing careers beyond traditional boundaries and challenging previous societal norms. For future generations, the impact was profound. The daughters and granddaughters of the wartime generation inherited a society that was gradually opening up to the notion that a woman's place was not only in the home, but in any arena where her talents and aspirations might lead her. The enduring legacy of these trailblazing women shaped the workplaces, politics, and social dynamics of the modern era. The long-term effects of women's involvement in World War II cannot be overstated. They broke ground in challenging gender roles, laid the cornerstones of the modern feminist movement, and have left indelible marks on how contemporary society understands gender equality and female empowerment. Acknowledging their part in shaping history assures that the legacy of their contributions is carried forward, inspiring countless generations to come. As we bring our journey through history to a close, let's take a moment to reflect on the remarkable stories we've shared today. We delved into the lives of women whose resilience and contributions during World War II have left an indelible mark on the world as we know it. Recognizing and honoring the role of women during this global conflict is more than paying homage. It's an acknowledgement of their profound impact on the course of history. These trailblazers not only filled the gaps left by men who went off to fight, but also challenged and reshaped the societal expectations of their time. We encourage you to delve deeper into history and discover the numerous untold stories of these admirable women. Their multifaceted impact, from the home front to the battlefields, from the factories to covert operations, deserves our ongoing exploration and recognition. As we continue to learn about their sacrifices, struggles, and victories, we pay tribute to the legacy they carved out, inspiring generations to come. Thank you for joining us on the Daily History Podcast. We hope you've been inspired by the courageous stories of women from World War II. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful journeys into history, and share your thoughts and suggestions for future episodes in the comments. Your engagement enriches our community, and the suggestion with the most likes will be considered for an upcoming episode. Until next time, keep exploring the untold tales of our past.